Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Google. How you doing? Yeah, I checked my numbers. I'm around 1,800 views. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't remember. Most of my viewers are adult males in their 40s and early 50s. I have 8% women. I'd like to get more women involved. But whatever's whatever, we're going to get what we're going to get. I want to do a 7-minute video on intermittent fasting. And I'll start it off with a joke. You know, this Viking leader was talking to his people. You know, had dozens of minions and they were about to attack a village. And he goes, yeah, we're going to attack the village. We're going to kill all the men and we're going to rape the women. This time, get it right. Okay, so I don't know if that was that funny, but this time we're going to get it right. Intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, the first time that came up on my radar screen was during an interview with Art Devaney. Art Devaney is the godfather of the paleo movement. When he does his talks, he says, I'm a caveman. You know, real macho. Very interesting person. And then it was reinforced with talks from Mark Sisson in an interview with a guy named Sean who runs Underground Wellness. He's just a sweetheart of a guy. I've never met the guy. It's just coming the way he comes across in his videos, the way he comes across with what he does in his podcast. He just seems like a sweetheart guy. But personally, I don't have any knowledge of him. I never talked to him, never shook his hand, never looked him in the eye, never did any of that. So I don't know the guy. But everything I've seen of him was positive. And he does some very good work. So anyway, in the interviews that I spoke to with Mr. Devaney and Mr. Sisson, Devaney was talking to Econ Talk, Russ Robertson's podcast, Russ Roberts, and they were discussing that. And in that podcast, he spent about 30 minutes discussing baseball and hitting because he's an ex-baseball player, and then he got into diet, in which he basically talked about how our metabolisms work, what he did, how he got to where he was, and then he closes out the interview that once a week you need to go to bed without supper. And I liked everything he said, but I said, man, I need to eat. How can I sleep if I don't eat? I mean, it kind of panicked me, kind of shook me up a little bit. I really didn't want to do that. So then it was reinforced with Mr. Sisson. Now, Mr. Sisson is another person in the paleo movement. He calls it primal. Mark's Daily Apple. He seems like a sweetheart of a guy. Not that Mr. Devaney seems like a little more aloof, a little more intimidating, if you will. Not anything against him. He's a great man from everything I can see. Anyway, Mr. Sisson was explaining how he didn't believe in breakfast and he'd skip breakfast, and he made it a habit of skipping breakfast and it didn't bother him. And the point being that a lot of the assumptions that we make about food are because the food we're eating is screwing us up, so we need to eat certain ways to keep the screwed upness as not as screwed up as we thought it should be screwed up. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm making a point. If you didn't get it, you can either rewind it or think about it or watch it tomorrow. But anyway, Mr. Sisson nailed it down even more because the guy's 58 years old, or 59 or something like that. He's got washboard abs. He looks great. He's muscular as heck. He says he doesn't work out that much. Just as Mr. Devaney. They both say they don't work out much. They both have very different prescriptions for training than what I've been used to hearing in my 30 years of training. Not what I was used to. So that was how I was introduced to it. They both talk about intermittent fasting. One had talked about skipping supper. One had talked about skipping breakfast. And my children took the ball and run with it when they heard about fasting. And they do a fast where they say you got a window you can eat. You know, shorten the window and close the window. Or, you know, and then they eat all they want. I think. I don't know. I haven't observed them. Now, I've seen some studies on this, and the ones that my son posted about them, they didn't seem to lose a whole lot of weight. Their weight pretty much stayed the same. My experience with intermittent fasting is When you bring it up to certain people, they get upset about it. It upsets them. It's almost like religion. It upsets them to that level. It's almost like religion, or saying that somebody didn't do something, coming up with a conspiracy theory. It's almost that upsetting to people. People get upset because they're vested in their diet. They have an idea. They have a preconceived notion. It's something that's burned into their brains. However that works, it is. So people get upset. And remember, Gandhi and religious people fast. But intermittent fasting is different. And I'm going to close this out by explaining to you my concept of intermittent fasting. I approach it from a physics point of view, even though I don't understand physics. We had old school physics, which is Newtonian physics, and then we have new school physics, which is chaos theory or complexity theory. Old school physics says, you're like a machine, so you need to eat a certain way, and it's like a gas, and it's like a car, and you need to put the gas in and stay fueled, 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 and do it all, everything to a pattern. The energy balance theory, which has its positivities about it, has some nice things about it. I'm not knocking it. But what the new style physics says is that your body, if you give it the proper inputs, it will adapt to that input. And if you keep the same inputs regular, then your body wanting to put on weight will put on weight. If you keep your body confused and you keep your body mixed up, then you'll lose weight. I mean, that's pretty much the whole gist of it. So 1 week I might fast on Friday, the next week I might fast on Tuesday, 1 week I might skip breakfast, the next week I might skip supper, what have you. So you got to mix it up. You have to mix it up, keep your body confused. So I've said a lot here. I've just talked about how I came to know about fasting, why I fast, some information about it, and I finally try to come to a conclusion about fasting. And if that doesn't do it, leave some comments you want more, and I'll speak more to it later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.